Guys, what I wanted to do in this video is to talk with you all about freedom, about our way of life, about things in this country that many people take for granted. And I want to talk with you about why it's important for us, anyone who supports freedom, to be paying attention to this case involving Donald Trump in New York. But guys, before we get into it, I would appreciate it if you'd share this video and, do give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Those things really do help. Now, I know there's probably some folks on here that watch this video that do not like Trump. Okay. You have your opinion. That is part of our country. That is part of the freedoms that we enjoy. It's very clear. We don't have to like someone. There's no law or anything that says that we have to like a particular politician. And that kind of plays into my point about why we all need to be paying attention to this case in New York. First thing is, I want to take a look at who this prosecutor is. I want to give you guys some information about who this guy is, using some sources out there that, news articles and things that talked about this guy well before this case even began. Okay. So what I wanted to start with, if we look to what were happening here, we do know that back before this case started, this Alvin Bragg himself even felt that the case against Trump was not going to work. He also felt that he's not going to prosecute certain crimes. But then he's changed his mind. And I want to start with who he is and how he got elected. George Soros. I'm sure that some of you guys have heard that name before. But George Soros made a hefty contribution to this person, as well as many other DAs across this country that have turned our legal system upside down. These folks are refusing to prosecute for many crimes, people that are, even in many cases, that have committed violent acts. And these DAs are refusing to prosecute them. Down in Florida, Ron DeSantis actually removed one of these George Soros-funded DAs because of what he was doing. But it gets deeper. Okay? Back when Alvin Bragg was running, and this is from the Washington Examiner, for Prosecutor Bragg, Trump indictment is a campaign promise kept. The man literally ran on the platform of trying to prosecute Trump, finding something to prosecute him with. Now, you guys need to remember that the federal government during the 2016 election cycle looked into the same thing that Alvin Bragg has resurrected and said plainly that it is a non-starter. They refused to prosecute it. And this was a federal DA under Obama at the time, federal prosecutors under Obama, that refused to bring any kind of a charge against Trump. Other district attorneys have also refused these charges as well. Okay? Just to show you how extreme this guy is, he has overturned a bunch of cases. There's a lot of news articles out there. In fact, unfortunately, some of them are being buried just because they look so bad. But here's an example here where he literally makes the case to dismiss a murder charge against someone, a violent person with a criminal record. Okay, you just have to look it up. Okay, that is just an unfortunate reality of where we're at. But there again, more crimes that he's just not going to prosecute. Doesn't matter what the law says. He's going against what the law, through the will of the people, through the representatives in New York, have said. Okay, he's going against it. People, even in many cases, that commit violence, he's just ignoring it. Okay? We also see, as part of this, two federal prosecutors or two prosecutors that worked for Bragg actually resigned. And these are just a couple of them. There's others that had resigned simply because of the way the man was doing. I mean, he was literally refusing to prosecute a lot of cases. A lot of these prosecutors up there have just said enough with it, and they left. And even Chuck Schumer has, stated that he doesn't have a lot of confidence in it. He declines to state confidence in the Manhattan District Attorney. That's the reality of where we are. Okay? So why should you be concerned about all of this, especially if you're someone that doesn't like Trump? You may be giddy about it. You may think that it is a good thing, when in reality, you should be as fearful as anyone else. Because what we are seeing is the justice system being weaponized against a political entity. Okay. Now, imagine, for example, if the roles were reversed. Imagine if it was someone that you supported, that you thought should be elected, but the justice system was going after them. And in the past, I know that things like that have happened before. But what we're seeing now in recent times is we are seeing an escalation. Never before in the history of the United States has a former president been indicted. Okay? Now, that is only one step, one thing. The reality is, and this is where every one of us, regardless of what you think about Trump or not, this is where we should all be concerned. What we are seeing is a uniparty in Washington, D.C. Whether it's Republican and Democrat, whatever the label is, the majority of the politicians up there consist of the uniparty. Just one big good old boys club, if you want to call it that. Okay? For the longest time, they would run against the other party. Perfect example, when George Bush was in office, we got the Patriot Act and all of that. Barack Obama hounded him about that during the campaign that eventually led to Obama getting elected. When Obama took office, all of the complaining that he did went out the window. In fact, he expanded the Patriot Act. He dug in deeper. And that is the same pattern that we see time and time again. No matter what party it is, Republican, Democrat, whatever. Okay? They have simply come together. They argue for our benefit. They argue to basically to divide us, to keep us, we the people, divided. Okay? That's what they do. So then we get an outsider. Regardless of what you think about Trump, again, he is an outsider. He was not a career politician. He was someone outside of the fray. And when he came in, they did not like that because he was not a uniparty establishment cretin. That's all it is, all you can say about it. And they hated it. They hated the fact that someone who was not of their own group had achieved such a high office. They had gotten in there. Okay? They hated it. Some people like what he did for this country. Some people hate what he did. Unfortunately, when you have nothing but literally 95% negative media from the big corporate media, it doesn't matter how much he did or matter how much anything anybody did or good that anybody would do. When you have that much negative press, it's going to make people think negatively because there again, most people do not look into the details of what's going on. They may catch a headline here or there, and that's it. And they will form their opinions based on those headlines. That's a bad thing to do, and that's why it's important to actually know more of what's going on around us. Okay, how does this play into our rights to own firearms and things like that? Imagine if they decide to really clamp down even more with all this gun control stuff, which I know in some places we're winning some victories. But at the same time, we're seeing, there again, that government, I guess you could say, two-headed snake. Doesn't like it. It's recoiling. Okay, it wants to strike. It wants to do what it can do to erode our rights as much as possible. We're seeing that happen. Okay, what happens if it gets to the point that they start prosecuting politicians based upon their position on gun rights? Okay? We don't have an overwhelming amount of support that we should have. Okay? Yes, there's politicians out there that run on gun rights because they know their constituents are very pro-gun. Their own feelings, they don't care. They're just a very base people. That's what a politician is. They are the most basest of people that you can get. Okay? If you get to the point where you have a politician prosecuted for supporting gun rights, similar, there again, regardless of anything else, if you start prosecuting politicians because they support gun rights, if you find a local DA somewhere to go after them, the way they're going after Trump on these things, and you do that enough times, before long, you're not going to have any pro-gun politicians, and our rights, they'll just vote to repeal them. They'll just vote to get rid of them. That's the reality of where we are. And it wouldn't necessarily be just gun rights. It could be anything. Okay? The reason they want us disarmed is because of the simple fact that a disarmed society is easier to control. Look no further than some of the stuff that has happened in recent times. It wasn't that many years ago when Australia did their big gun buyback that we hear the Democrats talk about all the time, how that we need to do the same thing. Okay? The gun buyback. You want to know what happened in Australia recently during COVID? They literally were sending them to internment camps. Okay? They had them in those COVID camps. Call them whatever you want. They were literally a COVID camp, an internment camp. What happens next time if they decide to take it to a much further extreme? Anybody remember 1930s Germany? What happened there? Again, it started out the same way. We see it repeated time and time again in history as far as what happens when you disarm a society. Okay? It turns brutal. It turns into just sheer butchery. Okay? And the only way that this kind of stuff stops is when we get involved to the point and put the pressure on the politicians to where it ends. Okay? It's up to us. That's where it comes into us to be able to put a stop to some of this nonsense. Regardless what you think about Trump or not, whether you like him or not, that's the reality. Okay? Would just be just one step into them taking more and more of our rights. Okay? Whether it's gun rights, whether it's whatever, they will end our rights in this country if they have the opportunity. Okay? But guys, look it up. Do your own research. Let me hear from you guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Share the video. Be sure to check out all the links down in the description. Visit my website at boomsticktactical.com, and we'll see you next time.